Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, good evening. I hope we are good as you're joining in. I just want to say welcome to Real Estate Auction Explained. I am Raquel Ambers, the Realtor Associate of Complete Realty Solutions and a member of the auction team. Special welcome to you on this Sunday evening. It's our honor and our pleasure to have you this evening. So today, as we go through real estate auction, I just want to acknowledge the presence of our presenters. First up, we will be having Oliver Francis, our real estate broker and auctioneer. We'll also be having our conveyancing attorney, Ruel Woolcock, and our mortgage broker, Petal Hall. We also want to just acknowledge the presence of any member of the Complete Realty Solutions family. Thank you so much for joining us. And of course, once again, welcome to you, our special guests. So today, as we talk about real estate auction, we'll be looking at everything real estate. We'll be looking at the legal perspective, understanding the mortgage process, and upcoming auctions. And of course, we have some testimonials of persons who have been there, done that, and they want to share with you the process, their process of going through the auction experience. And as we go into our presentation, as I said earlier, we have our very own Oliver Francis. He's our real estate broker, property manager, chartered accountant, licensed auctioneer for Complete Realty Solutions for the last 7 years, and since then has established himself as a leader in this market. He also has 20 plus years in real estate market. So we are talking about experience, and more experience. So I want you to put your virtual hands together and make welcome the very own Oliver Francis.
Thanks again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome again. I know it's a Sunday, and persons probably just finish eat their Sunday dinner, and some most Sundays, some persons only get Sundays to do their personal business. So, want to make it a very efficient meeting. However, it's going to be very effective in terms of the knowledge that you'll gain from this meeting today. All right. So let me go on. So who are we? We're an experienced team, as Ms. Ambles indicated. We have over 20 years experience in the real estate market. We're a one-stop shop in that we have a conveyance attorney on board. We align ourselves with mortgage representatives. One of our main representative is online today. We also have affiliates in terms of valuators, surveyors, quantity surveyors, and developers. Every professional in the real estate market, we have connections to them. And we're results oriented in that we meet and exceed the needs of our clients. So our business processes are bolstered by our core values, which includes integrity, professionalism. We expect to be held accountable, and we hold our clients accountable as well. We're reliable, we're client-centered, we're loyal to our customers, and our customers are loyal to us. And we innovate in the real estate market space. And as we go along, you will get a feeling of our innovation in the market. So these are our main areas of practice in the real estate market. There are more, but these are the main ones. Auctioneering, which we were discussing today, sales, purchases, rentals, and property management. So real estate, owning a home is a keystone of wealth, both financial affluence and emotional security. Basically, owning real estate or investing in real estate is one of the major avenues in terms of building wealth in Jamaica. Some persons here, or most persons here, may have already purchased real estate, and persons who have, let's say, acquired real estate like in excess of, let's say, 10 years, all those values would have either doubled or tripled. Even tell you more than that. Based on my experience, I've seen a doubling up of some values in real estate for some specific properties. Those properties have doubled in values in about 3 years. So really, you can't get that sort of a return from the bank. So if you're not invested in real estate as yet, or you may have purchased one or two, you may want to go on to the third one. Money in the bank is being eaten away by inflation. So real property is the best way to go. So just an overview about real estate auctions, including in every mortgage agreement is the power of sale, meaning the mortgagee can exercise its power of sale to recover the debts or recover the mortgage. So power of sale arises as soon as any payment is missed, but becomes exercisable after 3 months with the appropriate notices served, of course, and the first step in the foreclosure process. But typically in Jamaica, most banks are, wait, let's say a year. And I've seen banks be more lenient in the recent past, particularly with the fallout in the financial sector by way of the COVID pandemic. So delinquent mortgager misses 3 payments. The financial institution notifies the mortgager, then contracts the auctioneer. The auctioneer make arrangements for an auction. The financial institution sets the reserve price. The auctioneer puts up the property for auction, whether in person or online. We have aligned ourselves to provide online auctions, and we will tell you why we have done it that way, Hold on a second. Yeah, sorry about that. We have a live stream going on. It has been pausing. So we're just waiting on our viewers on YouTube to get back online. But I'm understanding that it's back up now. So I will continue the presentation. So the auctioneer puts up the property for auction in person or online. We are online auctioneers. The buyer wins the bid, pays the deposit, then pays the balance over 3 months, and then takes possession of his newly acquired property, his or her newly acquired property. So properties are sold as is, where is, and is subjected to existing tenancies. All auctions are subjected to a reserve price. As I said, this is determined by the financial institution. Reserve price is never disclosed, but the starting price that you will see on our website is a function of the reserve price. And the auctions are intended to be a natural and objective process and free from bias. That's why we don't disclose the reserve price. So as we said earlier on, we don't just do real estate auctions. We take it online. So with the advent of the pandemic, we realized that we had to carry on business and we had to keep on serving our clients, both the mortgagees and our real estate prospects. So we pivoted and repositioned and we went online with our auctions. And we have found that the process is now very efficient, very convenient to our customers. It's open 24/7. That means, you can be online bidding in the nights while some persons are sleeping. You get instant feedback. So once you place a bid online, you then will see that you're winning. You get an email that the bid has been confirmed. And when someone outbids you, you get another email indicated that you have been outbid. So you can actually watch the bids online in a live process. It's a very free and fair and objective process. And a wider market can take part in the auction. So whether you're local or overseas, you can take part in the real estate or online real estate auctions. So firstly, you would register online. It's at crsj.com/auctions/register. You submit the required documents to our office. You get your account approved. Once you take part in the auction, you place the winning bid online. Then you pay the deposit within 24 hours and the balance by way of mortgage or cash. Remember, there's a great misconception out there that you need cash to take part in an auction. You can use a mortgage. So our auction guide, and this is actually online as well at crsj.com/auction-guide. So the first step in the process is you have to determine your budget. So you can't make any move until you determine how much you are able to spend or how much you are willing to spend, which is a combination of your savings and any mortgage that you are pre-approved for. So most persons use a mortgage. So you have to visit your financial institution to get a pre-approval letter, and you have to determine your savings or determine how much of your savings you're willing to put towards this venture. The deposit is usually 10% of the sale price or of your winning bid. So then you have to determine what you want, which the type of property, whether it's a single family home or an apartment or townhouse, the size, how many bedrooms you want, or how much bedrooms you need. You may want 3 bedrooms, but when you look at your family structure, you realize more than one person probably can share a room. So you may cut it down to 2 bedroom. The location, everyone knows where they want to live. And, but you have to determine, let's say, a variety of options in terms of the location and in terms of parish, area, and so on. And most importantly, you have to do a reality check. So be honest with yourself. Balance what you want with what you need and what you can afford. Some of us have champagne taste, but beer pockets. So we have to balance it. We have to be honest with ourselves to ensure, for example, almost everyone wants to live in Cherry Gardens, Norbrook, New Kingston, or above New Kingston, Ligani area, but all of us can't live in the area. Some of us may have to choose Portmore based on our budget. However, in these times, possibly not even Portmore anymore, probably Old Harbour, because the prices in Portmore have been going up in recent times, especially in Greater Portmore, Caribbean Estates, those areas, those prices are going up. So you have to be cognizant of the market and just, be realistic in your approach. So you register with CRS for the auction. Of course, it's an online registration form, crca.com/auctions/register. Your registration will be confirmed by one of our auction agents. You submit the required documents, which is the customer information form. Once you register, you can download the customer information form from under account details within your account. You submit a government issued ID, proof of address, which is let's say a utility bill, and proof of financing, which is basically the bank statement showing your deposits and the pre-approval letter showing how much the bank will, let's say, lend you to complete the purchase. So browse for upcoming auction. Once you register as well, you'll get an email when any auction is coming up, and you can, go on the website as much as you want. And also, sometimes the reserve, the starting prices are posted early. Sometimes you get the starting prices like a week before the auction. Particularly the upcoming auction for the 26th, the starting prices will be posted on the 18th or 19th of this month. So once your account is approved and it's fully vetted, you're able to bid in the upcoming auction and for future auctions. So due diligence is very important, You can't take part in the auctions without doing your due diligence. So firstly, you have to visit the location and view the exterior. Unlike open market purchases, you typically don't have access to the interior of the properties. Properties are sold as is and where it is. You familiarize yourself with the community. You understand what the amenities are available and the culture of the neighborhood. You do your research. You have to do your research. Very important. You'd have to determine what research the values of similar properties within the area. And a CRS agent also would assist you. Our main agents, auction agents, are Raquel Nunes and Raquel Ambersley. They're very pleasant and very knowledgeable and very helpful. Okay? And legal representation. You have legal representation on this meeting today. His name is Royal Wolcott. or if you have your own attorney, you consult your attorney in advance. The auction agreement is same as the contract, the conditions of sale contract. It cannot be changed, and it is a standard contract. So to participate in the auction, read the fine print, read the conditions of sale. Do not just simply click accept. It outlines the rules of the auction, your eligibility to bid, and the time to complete the purchase. The conditions of sale are the same as the terms of the auction contract. So you bid on the property that meets your needs and your budget. Remember, we spoke about the budget, and you set in your maximum bid, and never you ever go over your maximum bid. Pay attention, check your email and other alerts. You have alerts on the screen to know to keep in tune with the progress of the auction and to know when the auction is closing and to determine whether you have been outbid. You have to be very attentive. You may have to, you need quick fingers, because once the auction closes, no other bids will be accepted. Usually, most times our auctions go between 9 a.m. and 12 noon. So, and remember, you can bid from anywhere. You can bid while you're in a meeting. I remember a testimonial from one of our previous auction clients. He indicated he was actually doing a training session, as he's a cricket coach, and he was bidding while he was doing the training session. So successful bidders, deposit is usually 10%. It must be paid within 24 hours. That's why you have to show up front that by way of a bank statement that you have your deposit saved. And based on your research and based on our advice of the values of similar properties, we can determine that amount. Balance is paid within an agreed time frame, which is usually 90 days. This may be financed through your saving, of course, and of course, a mortgage. You can use a mortgage to participate in our auctions. You don't need cash alone, sorry, not cash alone. You can use a mortgage. I'm pausing to let that sink in, because a lot of persons don't have that knowledge about auctions. So you can use a mortgage to purchase. You only need a 10% deposit upfront. You close the deal, complete legal requirements to transfer the title. Your CRC agent and partners will guide you along the way. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'll take it at the end. And you can place your questions in the chat. I'm gonna hand over to Raquel Nunez now. I'm gonna hand over to Raquel Nunez.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Raquel Nunes, real estate auction teammate, and I'm here to introduce Mr. Woolcock. But first of all, Oliver gave us a mouthful, and I'd like to invite you to put your questions in the chat so that we may address them. Ward Woolcock is our in-house attorney at law, and he has over 25 years experience in conveyancing, land law, and civil litigation. Mr. Woolcock has represented quite a few of our clients, both auction clients and open market clients, and is more than able to explain to you the legal perspectives of real estate auctions. Help me to introduce and to Mr. Woolcock, welcome again. You're always here for us, and we're very grateful for that. Well,
Good day, everyone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Royal.
Okay, good day, everyone.
Yeah.
Good afternoon to one and all. Thank you all for joining. Certainly, this is an opportunity for many of us.
Royal, you can turn on your camera as well.
My camera is off. One moment. You're not seeing me? Let me try again. Are you seeing me now?
I am actually.
You're seeing me now. Okay. Yes, so thank you all for joining us today. My name is Royal Woolcock, and I should say that my role begins at the point when Mr. Francis's role ends. My purpose and function is to ensure that your interest is fully protected as you go through the process after you have won your bid. I must say that the bank or the building society that is exercising their powers of sale would also be represented by an attorney whose purpose it is to also secure and represent the interest of that institution. So it is always advisable to have an attorney on your side who would be in a position to protect your interest as well. Now, Mr. Francis mentioned earlier that it is important for you to pay attention and to actually read the conditions of sale, which sets out all the terms and conditions that are related to the transaction, assuming you win the bid. Mr. Francis highlighted the fact that it is quite unusual for those conditions to be changed. In fact, in the vast majority of cases, the conditions of sale represents the agreement for sale between you and the institution that is selling you the property. Now, the institution's primary purpose in an auction is to recover monies outstanding to it because of the failure of the current registered owner in honoring his or her responsibility in paying back the mortgage. Now, as a result of that, the conditions of sale are typically, I would say, different in many material respects from what you would expect if you were buying a property on the open market. So the conditions would, for example, stipulate that you as the buyer of the property, you will take the property, as Mr. Francis says, as it stands. And as it stands would include subject to the existing occupants. So you can appreciate that the bank selling the property would be selling it usually with the former or the current registered owner still in possession or still in control of the property. And so you have to take that into account as you make your bids to purchase these properties. Be that as it may, I must say that over the years, we have not had any, I've had very little difficulty when it comes on to taking whatever legal steps that are required in order to have the property vacated at the end of the transaction. But you should be aware that it is quite likely that when you buy one of these properties, you are likely to take it with the occupants still in possession. I should also point out that, as Mr. Francis says, as is where is, that could also mean that the property may have some issues with like breaches of what they call covenants. There might be a little issue with encroachment. And so I always advise my clients to ensure that, you know, as Mr. Francis mentioned earlier, do your due diligence. Try and do whatever external observation you can make, you can do in relation to the property. Take your surveyor with you. Perhaps that surveyor could give you a little insight, because once you sign the condition of sale, you are actually tied in to the transaction and you must complete. And bear in mind as well that if you fail to honor, say, the condition of sale that speaks to the timeline within which you are supposed to complete the transaction, you could be exposed to the possibility of paying the interest on the outstanding balance and so forth. So you have to ensure that you do have all your financial resources lined up. Whether it means that if you're going to be taking a mortgage, ensure that you are on board with all the requirements that the mortgage company requires. And if it is that you're going to be financing, otherwise ensure that you have funds available, because we never want any of our customers or clients to be exposed to paying more than what they actually have to pay. One of the other reasons why it is important for you to have an attorney is that the attorney, as attorneys, we obviously would have a relationship in many respects. We know most of these attorneys who represent the banks. And if there's a problem, say there's a little delay in you getting your loan and it is affecting the timeline within which you are supposed to provide proof of your loan approval, we can always have discussions with these attorneys with a view to extending time if that is necessary. You know, so we do play a critical role in ensuring that the process is smooth and that you are not exposed in any negative way as we move forward. Now, there is also the question of your financial obligations. Now, when you win a bid at an auction, typically the winning bid is round about the market value. There are times when you may very well end up buying the property for less than what the true market value is, not by much. But why I raise this point is that when you're purchasing and you're using a mortgage to assist you in the acquisition of the property, it is important to understand that the mortgage company will only lend you based upon the value or the price, whichever is lower of the two. So if your winning bid is higher than the actual value, then you must be prepared to pay any shortfall between those two prices, between those two. So be aware of that as well. And as Mr. Francis says, know your budget, don't get carried away. Very often, because the property is in a location that is desirable, we sometimes may lose sight of the fact that we actually have to spend money in order to purchase a property. And if you don't have the funds, you could end up in some serious problems down the line, even with an attorney representing you. So be aware of that. Now, as Mr. Francis touched on earlier, at the end of the transaction, which is typically between, say, 90 and 120 days from the date when you actually win the auction, after you've honored all your obligations, i.e. payment of the full amount, as well as closing costs, and I'm going to touch on that shortly, you will be given possession of the property. Now, possession of the property doesn't actually mean you will be given physical possession of the property. You will be given documentation which will demonstrate in a legal sense that you have an entitlement to take possession of the property. If the property is vacant, then very often you may have to secure the services of a locksmith in order to gain entry, because the bank is not necessary. In fact, it is rare that the bank would have access to keys, etc. So be prepared to utilize the service of a locksmith to gain entry. Again, if the property is occupied by somebody else, these legal documents doesn't mean that you can just go in and take over the person. We as attorneys will have to follow certain procedures in order to assist you to ensure that these individuals are removed in a lawful way. Now, I mentioned earlier closing costs are as part of your financial requirement. Be aware that if you win a bid, say for $10 million, it doesn't mean that you're going to pay only $10 million to complete the transaction. There are actual costs in addition to that $10 million that you must be aware of. These include your attorney's fees, usually approximately 2% of the purchase price. You have other obligations like stamp duty, registration fees, and as well, the mortgage that you are intending on taking actually comes with a cost as well. And when the next speaker lends her voice to this this meeting, she will explain to you that what these costs are likely to be. So be prepared for that as well. But all in all, our experience has been a very good one over the years. We can say very honestly that a lot of persons who have been successful in winning bids on this platform, the CRS platform, have actually gone through and completed, the vast majority have completed their transactions and they are in possession of their property and they are quite happy with how things have turned out. The fact that they have done it means it all goes well for you also. And I would encourage all of you who are interested to do your homework, place your bid, and hopefully at the end of the process, you'll be successful. So thank you again. And we are here to help. If you have any questions at the end of this presentation, we can answer those questions. So thank you again. Have a good day.
Thank you, Royal. Thank you very much, Royal. I see there are some questions in the chat, as I had indicated earlier, that you should put your questions there. So we'll pass them on to Royal in a few minutes. We are at that section where we speak about the mortgage. And we have with us this evening Ms. Petal Hall. She holds a Master's of Business Administration in General Management, and she's a professional banker with more than 20 years in the industry. She joined the JN in 2016 as Manager of Mortgage Sales and has since been promoted several times. She was promoted to Chief of Branches, responsible for the operations of JN Bank's 34 branches and money shops, the JN Premier branch, and the bank's overseas representative offices. Ms. Hall was appointed Group Sales Executive at the Jamaica National Group in August 2022 and has oversight for all sales functions in all JN Group entities. Who better to help us to understand the mortgages? Welcome, Ms. Hall.
Thank you, Raquel, and a very special good evening to all the viewers online and in the chat here. Thanks, Oliver, and the reality team. Mr. Woolcock, it's good to put a face to the name. I've seen your name in JN ever so much. And it's really good to be here and in good company this evening. So my task is to just walk you through the mortgage process. And Oliver has asked me to touch, very much on the pre-qualification process and the pre-approval process. Those two processes, especially the pre-approval process, is very, very, very critical. What are some of the current mortgage rates currently in the market? And any other useful information. And before I continue, I want to also acknowledge one of my sales representatives who is here today, Ms. Karen Hines. She's an acting client relationship officer. And of course, for every opportunity we come to the fore with, we see it as an opportunity for sales. And so we are ready to take your questions and to start your pre-approval process right after we are finished this evening. All right, so Oliver, you would have set the stage earlier with some very key preamble and key information for persons who want to purchase a home. I noticed that you went into it being an investment, and I want to just add to that owning a home is one of the most important investment or crucial investment anyone can make. I mean, owning a home is almost like, probably reaching heaven. It is a very, very critical part of, of living, and also creating wealth for you and your generations to come. So it's not like buying a car or getting an unsecured loan. It is one of the most single important investments anyone could make in their lifetime. And, pretty much if it is that you're able to buy 2, 3, 4, there you go, you're off to creating wealth, because the Jamaican market is very amenable to properties and how they appreciate in value. I can tell you, if you certainly buy a property today, depending on where you bought the property, I can guarantee you after today, when you get the keys in your hand, the property will start to appreciate immediately, or even before you even start owning the property will appreciate in value. So it's not like, stocks or bonds, or repo that you have to keep watching, the price and the movement. I can guarantee you, if you buy a property in Old Harbour today for say 17 million, I can guarantee you within a year or two, you're looking at 18, 19, 20 million. That's how lucrative real estate is in Jamaica. Very, very, very lucrative. And so because it is so lucrative and it's a very important part of your, creating wealth for you, going through the process is also very important, that you understand the process, and that as mortgage advisors and mortgage specialists, we hold your hand, walking you through this process, because it's a very important investment that you're making. They talk about, making a deposit, and there are other costs involved. Mr. Wilcock gave me a preamble earlier. There are other costs. There are legal costs involved. In fact, there are 3 types of legal costs involved. You have you have your legal costs from the purchaser side. You have the bank's legal costs, and you have the vendor's legal costs to look at. So I'm going to go through that very quickly. Hopefully I have enough time to go through all the very important, useful information. But first, I want to talk about, I know Oliver spoke about, choosing, the right a property to buy. All of that is very important. And so that's a part of the planning stage. And so you're not able to get up today and say you're going to buy a property tomorrow. It takes some amount of planning into this process. And so saving is important, because there's a deposit that you must think about. And there are some costs, some closing costs that you must think about. And there are some legal costs and some statutory costs for the government that you must think about, right? And of course, you want to buy furniture and so forth when you have moved in. And so it's not an overnight decision that you've made, so even going into an auction, you have to have your ducks in a row, to ensure. Oliver did mention, some of us have champagne taste, but we have the beer pocket. And so that's fine. That's okay, because we always say your first property is never, ever your dream property. It's just your first property. You just want to own something. You want to start. You may want to flip it a little later and buy something else. If your salary can afford it for another property while you have the first one, then you're creating wealth there. And so some persons always think, you know, of wanting to have this big house on the hill first. No, just take your time and buy your first property, because your first property is never ever always your dream property. It's probably the third property down the road. You say, yes, this is my dream property, right? So how do you start? And I said earlier, one, you must start planning from early. It's not an overnight decision. Two, you must start some savings. And although our institutions recently are giving up to 100% financing, some persons are giving 97% financing, some are giving 95% financing, depending on your credit score, you want to have a little equity in that property. You want to have a down payment in that property. But hey, life happens. Sometimes an auction comes up, you don't have a deposit, and so we can lend you an unsecured loan. So JN Bank has an unsecured loan of about 5 million, up to 5 million. If your salary can manage both the unsecured loan and the mortgage, so be it. So sometimes life happens, you're not planning, you don't have all the money, and so we can also help you along the way. And so planning is important, having your deposits. And the third thing that you always want to always ensure that you do is what we call a pre-qualification, which is the first step before you reach pre-approval. Now, pre-qualification is very important. You want to kind of know where you stand, you know. You may have called the bank and say, you know, about how much I could qualify for, and they can do a rough check. Now, that rough check is not something on paper that you can take to the auctioneer or to the realtor. The pre-qualification is just to tell you, you know, just to kind of give you an estimate, or what they call a guesstimate, of what you could qualify for based on your income and based on the debts that you have. Now, before I go into pre-approval, the fourth important step that we must ensure that we take is that if you're going to buy a property, and this property perhaps is your first property, then you can't be going along, you know, purchasing, you know, on the impulse. You know, you're buying a property and you're looking to buy, you know, probably some high-end vehicle. And I'm not saying that you can't buy a high-end vehicle. I'm saying if your salary can't afford certain things, then you must prioritize. And if you're going to buy a property, you must ensure that your finances are in a certain place. Yeah, so you can't be frivolous wanting to probably go to ATI and you're going on to the you know, you have to take out an unsecured loan for $200,000 or $1 million because you want to go to a party. That's going to cut into your eligibility for a property. It is going to. And so some persons want it all. And when you're buying a property, what you don't want to have is too many debts. Too many debts. Some persons think that, oh, I'm not working enough money. But if you look at the debts that you have, or even some of the expenses that you have, and you see where you can cut back, you'll be surprised how much more you can be qualified for. At JN, we always say for every $10,000, that's almost like $1 million in mortgage. For every $10,000, that's tantamount to another $1 million in mortgage. So if it is that you don't need a particular expense right now, do away with it. Put that money into your savings account as it can go towards your closing costs or your deposit to buy your property. So I'm going into the pre-approval process. The pre-approval process is one of the most critical, very critical and crucial parts of the mortgage process. Now, if you don't do the pre-approval process, it makes no sense you go and bid on a property. Makes no sense, because what would you be bidding on? If you don't know how much you're pre-approved for, how do you know where to go and search? You're not going to know. And so the pre-approval process is very easy. It's a 1, 2, 3 process. It's cheap. It's free of cost. All we need is your income information. And I do know we have a myriad of persons here, persons who are self-employed, persons who are employed to a company, persons who are employed in their own company, or, you know, they're employed probably with a partner. Now, if it is that you're self-employed and you perhaps can't afford an accountant to do your books, ensure that you pass your income through a bank account. That's the only way we as bankers or the mortgage experts can see what your income looks like. If you just take the cash and spend the cash, I don't know what's your income from this business. So you need to be passing all your income. Even if you use it back, we need to see the money is going into your bank account on a regular basis, whether monthly, daily. We need to see that money going in. Of course, if you're employed to a company, we need to see your last 2 to 3 months pay slips and your job letter. Now, it's also important if it is that you're using your NHT benefits, that your company also pays over your NHT. So we also ask for a letter addressed to NHT showing how much of your benefits have been paid over for the last 2 to 3 months, because with your NHT benefit, you must be qualified for NHT, at least paying your benefit for the last 52 weeks consecutively, right? So of course, you can get up to 7.5 million at the NHT rate, and you can come to JN Bank and you can also get that benefit along with the JN Bank portion. So the pre-approval process is that we collect your income information. We need your ID, right? Because we must show proof of age that you're 18 years and over, because you can't buy anything below 18 years. You must have your TRN at the National Land Agency. They're not going to register the title without your TRN. In fact, Mr. Wolcott is going to need your TRN to draft up the sales agreement through CRS, right? And so the other important document that we need from you is that you must give us consent to pull your credit report from the 2 major credit bureaus in Jamaica. That's Everyday Data and that's CRIF. So your credit report information is also crucial, because if you have bad debts on your credit report, and that's why planning is important, you must ensure before you go and start bidding that you don't have any bad debts that's going to derail your ability to buy your property. And so once we have looked at all your debts, once we have looked at your income and we use your gross income at JN, and we say your debts, all of your debts, including the one that you're about to bid on, should not exceed 50% of your gross income. So say, for instance, you earn $500,000 every month. All of your monthly payments on your debts, including the one that you're about to acquire, should not exceed $250,000. That's 50% of the $500,000, right? So we're saying 50% must be for loans, and the other 50 will be for the government and your taxes and so forth, right? Now, what we do, we look at that and we look at your age. Now, some persons think that you're too young to buy a property. No, in fact, it's the best time to buy a property, because the younger you are, the longer you get to pay your loan. So the factors in calculating your monthly payment is your interest rate, which I'm going to go into next, your tenure, which is your age, and we go up to age 70. No more than 40 years to repay. So the younger you are, you get the 40 years to repay. And of course, the older you are. So say, for instance, you're 50 years old, you only get 20 years to repay. So that's the reason why it's always good to start looking at your property and investment from an early age, because of course, the younger you are, the longer time you'll get to pay. And once we look at those factors and the repayment and so forth, we do a pre-approval letter to say, hey, Raquel, you are pre-qualified for up to 30 million. Now, that pre-approval letter is what the auctioneer is going to look at to see if you can be accepted for this bid. Now, it can't be that you're pre-approved for 20 million and the reserve price for the bid is, say, 40 million and you're bidding. It makes no sense, because you'll not be able to qualify for a 40 million property. 20 million only you can bid for, right? So it's very important for you to understand and know that the pre-approval process is what you need to know how to bid, that you'll be accepted for the bid, right? So the pre-approval process is that I need your income, I need your debts, and from your debts, we pull your credit report, and if your debts are not on the credit report, then there are ways that we can find out that you have these debts, to include in the calculation, right? Now, what are the current mortgage rates out there currently? Of course, if you've been following the news since last year, the Bank of Jamaica has been levying, some deposit rates on the banks, to kind of stabilize inflation. I believe the governor wants inflation to be at about 4.5%. And so the Bank of Jamaica has been increasing interest rates on us, overnight rates, that's deposit rates on us for some time. I believe they have kind of ceased right now. And so deposit rates are there in about 7% currently, right? And so mortgage rates, as a result of that, have started to trend up. about 2, 3, 4 years ago, mortgage rates were as low as 6 and 6.5%. We're seeing mortgage rates currently at 8, 8.5, 10, and sometimes 12. So some institutions are at 12%. Currently, JN is as low as 8%, and that's is dependent on your credit score. We do a profile of you to see where you fall in the credit score band, and we give you an 8%, 8.5, and so forth, depending on where you fall. But currently, JN is starting at 8%. I'm seeing where some institutions are currently at 10 and 12, and that's to really cover their costs to try and make a spread to make money, right? So what I want to leave with you today is that shopping around for the best rates is very important. And ensure that the institution is very upfront. I think JN sometimes get a little snack for that because we are very upfront, and so we give you all information, and so it kind of work against it. But we are very upfront with you. What are your costs? Some institutions don't tell you about life insurance. It's when you reach the end of the process, it's even telling you about life insurance and peril insurance, and you may have to go on it on your own. JN Bank gives you that on a one-stop shop through JNGI and JN Life at the mortgage center, right? So some additional information that you need. And Mr. Wilcox talks about an attorney. It's very important you have an attorney in this process because anything can happen with that sale, and you must have an attorney who can assist you, who can defend you in that process, right? Additionally, if it is that you have been accepted for the bid, I saw a question earlier, if the bid is far less or far greater than the value or so. What is important as well, I see Oliver coming on, is a valuation report is important and a surveyor's report is important because you don't want to be buying a property that have restrictive covenants and breaches of encroachment, right? That's it from me. I'm not sure if you have any more questions before I go off. I guess you can put it in the chat. But importantly, out of this session is the pre-approval process. And if you're not pre-approved, Oliver is not even gonna entertain you. He's gonna say that you're wasting his time because you don't know where you stand in the process. Whether Oliver or the realtor, he's not gonna look at you. He's gonna look at somebody else who has a pre-approval letter in his or her hand. Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity.
And thanks very much, Petal. That was very informative. Don't go just yet. There are questions at the end. So I'm gonna take the success stories because we have some success stories next, and then we'll show you what's up for auction shortly. So and then we'll take the questions at the end. So don't leave us yet. All right. But thanks again, much appreciated. That was so informative.
I told you. I told you that Miss Hall had a wealth of knowledge, and so she brought forth all that she knows so that we can learn from that. As I indicated earlier as well, kindly put your questions in the chat so that we can address them at the end. Right now, we have our testimonials, and we have 3 persons that were successful in our auctions to bring their stories for us. We have Miss Tonian Torres. We'll start with Tonian.
Good night.
The mouse. Tonian, unmute your mic and turn on your camera, please. Thank you.
You hearing me better?
Okay, here we go. Go ahead, Tonian.
Hi, where should I start? So in 2022, well, I started my search for my property, I believe in 2021, 2022, and I was introduced to Complete Realtor by a friend of mine that sent the property that I am currently living now. Initially, as Mr. Francis said, do your due diligence. So for my property, I had family member that was living in the same community or scheme. And so they were able to give me a bit of feedback of the type of property I could be able to view I wasn't able to view the inside of my property, but I was able to view the inside of identical property. So that's how I did my research before. And as it relates to the platform itself, because you don't have to go in and do anything, I was able to do everything from work. So upload all my documents before, and the property price was on the website, I believe, at least a week before. So it's able to condition my mind and my finances to meet that need. On the bidding day, it was pretty easy because I was at work and I was able to do my work as normal. And whenever I bid, they'll send me an email whenever it's successful. When I got outbidded, they sent me an email to let me know so I could go back on the website and bid again. And it lasts until 12 a.m. Also, the team was very, 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 very reliable. Just to say, before the actual day of the auction, I call them probably every single day of the week, and I call them more than once a day. Anything I was not sure about, I'd ask them, even though the information is on the website, because it was my first property. And you know, most time when it's your first property, you're a bit nervous, and auction is not necessarily a way that a lot of persons would go. And so just to ensure that I am clear on what is being the process, I would call, and they would not have any problem with answering any of my questions, any of my concern. And when I was successful with the bid, you know, obviously I was excited, I was happy. After that, we have 24 hours. So a good thing is to ensure that you have the money ready. If it's a case where the bid is finished basically 12 o'clock that day. So, you know, because you have faith, you would make sure that you can be able to run to the bank to write a check or a second, more than likely. Or you can transfer the money, but based on how the banking is going on now, more than likely you'd have to get a check based on the amount. So you can go in and try to get that check. And as I said, they're very, very helpful. They're not hard and fast. When I did my deposits, the process wasn't long. So I got through with the house in September, and by the next March, I was living in the house. And most of the process was finished by the December, to be honest. But because of, you know, the holiday and so on, some of the process slowed down. So in by January, February, early February, I had all the documents in my hands. I was able to serve notice to the person that was there. I didn't have any problem with getting the person out because legally, because we have all the documents that we should serve, it was no problem. I got the person out, and it has been 1 year now. So last year, March 1st, I moved in to my property, and it has been a year. And trust me, it was, to me, it's probably easier than the open market process, because the you get the condition of sale from the bid day, so you know under what condition you're getting a sale, and it's very straightforward to me. So yes, during the time it's a bit, it feels long because it takes probably three to 5. It's less than 6 months for you to complete the entire process and be in your property, but it's well worth it. And as I said, even after I got through with the successful bid, and I had any questions about the process for when I'm unsure, because there are times when the process get a bit quiet, and as a first time person that going through the process, you get a bit worried, right? And you can always call Mr. Francis. You can always call, I believe, Shanice. I hope I don't forget her name. They're always there to answer. They always say, no man, don't worry. You're supposed to be at this stage of the process. You have to give it a couple weeks and so on. They're always there to answer, even when to me they're finished with the process as it relates to their part. But they don't have any problem with you calling after regarding the process. So that was my process. And as I said, I've been in my property for a year. I'm not disappointed, right? Especially I got my property at an extremely reasonable price, and I was able to I'm in the process of completing my renovation. Hopefully, I done everything by the end of this month, but I was able to renovate, and it's a peace of mind and the freedom. And I am putting myself together to go for our next property through the auction. So I'd recommend it to anybody. I recommend it to family and friends. But as I said, do your due diligence. Ensure that you familiarize yourself with wherever you're going. If you don't have anybody that you know, right, find a way to find out about the community, about the persons. If there's somebody living in the property, if the person will let you in the property, because most time they would know that the property is being auctioned. You can try that, but in my case, I just familiarize and I ask persons around about the property. So yeah, that is my testimonial. Hopefully that's short and spicy and it got to the point.
Look at successful bidder. We're happy all over again for you, Tony, and we're happy that you took that leap and it was successful. Thank you very much. Next
You're
up, we
welcome.
have Mr. Constantine Ward, and he will give us his story. Constantine?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hearing me? Everyone hearing me? You're not hearing me? Okay, great. All right, let me say that I was a successful bidder for last year. And honestly, it was a nerve-wracking experience. And the reason why I said that is because I never had any knowledge prior to engage in an auction process. And what I have done, I have ensured that all my questions were answered. I called on several occasions. I asked questions. I ensured that I clearly understood that the information that was imparted to me. I believe I spoke with Raquel. I don't think Miss Nunez, I think it was the other Raquel I spoke with. And I must commend her because the professionalism was through the roof. So I must commend her on that. Don't need to reiterate what the presenter had said, but just to add a point. In engaging the bidding process, gender people, please ensure that you grasp all the information that was presented earlier, not just only 50%, but 100 or even 110%, because you will need such information to become a successful bidder. A point to note though, and if I'm wrong, I will stand subjected to correction. A point to note, on that day in question, or in that day when the bidding is done and the session began, you must ensure that you logged in and stay logged in. Ensure that you log in properly and stay logged in. And the reason why I said stay logged in is because if you're there and you're observing what is taking place and you're engaged in the bidding, and say, for instance, you might stop to just do something and come back, the system will automatically just kick you off like that. So when you're, say for instance, you're going now and you're going to try to bid again, you realize that you're logged out. So please bear that in mind. And as I said before, if I'm wrong, then Mr. Francis can clear any ambiguities on that. Right? Good. Ensure that you also understand the process, because I know that you guys, you really want to be a successful bidder. So ensure that when you logged in, you spend time and understand the process, because oftentimes what you will find is that information, yes, is imparted on you, and Mr. Francis, Mr. Woolcock, and Mr. All imparted a great deal of knowledge. Must commend them on that. But what you realize that you will have the knowledge, but you do not know how to execute. So on that day in question, please ensure that you understand, spend time and understand the bidding process whilst you are there. Don't just log in and look at it and spend time and understand it. Also, what I urge you guys to do is develop a strategy within your head. How can you become the next successful bidder? Because whilst you're there, you bid, person will be there trying to outbid you. So you have to know what to do, right, in order to become the next successful bidder. I cannot give you my strategy because, I'll probably be on the next side at some point in time again. So I have to keep my strategy. But anyway, notwithstanding, it was a bias-free process. I'm not lying to you. Initial stage, all type of things was going through my head. I was thinking all sort of nonsense, but when I actually take part in it and see how the process is done, it was fairly done. Believe me, it was fairly done and well put together. So do not be afraid to ask questions, gentle people. I urge you to ensure that you understand fully the information that was presented to you, right? Um, Apart from that, even apart from that, it was a wonderful feeling knowing that I was a successful bidder, and I gained possession of documentation for my lot. And we are, my spouse and I is waiting now on the architect to finish the plan for us to start our construction. So, and I'm not afraid to tell you that I never had the full cash either. I had to use the mortgage and some cash. So do not be afraid, do not be discouraged, right? If you do not have the full cash, just pay attention and listen to what the presenter said, and trust me, just apply it and you will be successful. So that's basically it from me.
Constantine, thank you very much, man. You guys realize that Constantine had a strategy and that he was trying to let you guys in on the secret tips of bidding. Well, yes, he did. And one of the things that he told you was to be vigilant. And a part of the vigilance was to ensure that you were always logged in, because you might be on it and you think you're logged in, and when you go to bid, you're not. So exercise caution and plan your strategy. Next up, we have Kareem Collins Salmon. Kareem, unmute your mic. Kareem, are you there? Mr. Salmon, unmute your mic and turn on your camera. Okay, ready for you. Your mic is not on.
Hello, good evening. Are you hearing me now?
Yeah, yes, we are hearing you. You can turn on your camera as well.
Oliver, I'm not camera ready, but all right, all right, good evening, everyone. My name is Karine Colin Salmon, and Oliver asked me to share my experience. So just like the other persons that came on, I participated in this process. And it's funny because I've been in the market for some time trying to acquire property in Kingston, but every time I bid on a property, I'm always outbidded. So I have a good friend who saw a property posted on by a realtor, and she shared the property with me. However, she later informed me that the property is an auction property, and she wasn't sure about the process. So being the good friend that she is, she inquired about the process and then shared that information with me. And that's how I got introduced to Complete and Oliver. So I basically read on their website what would be required. I registered and I provided the information that they requested in terms of proof of deposit and any other thing. Can't remember now. But I did what was required, and then on the day of the auction, I logged in. And because I'm not very lucky at these things, and I was a bit discouraged, I logged in the morning, but I had a meeting. So I logged in, and then I logged into my meeting. But I had it running in the background, and I would check in from time to time. But luckily, my meeting finished before the process was complete. And so I was able to be more active in the bidding process. But one advice I'd give to anybody who is in the bidding process, don't bid more than the minimum required based on the last bid that you have seen. Because you don't want to put too much out there initially, because that may just be what is required to actually win the bid. So anyway, I was there going along until prices started to go higher and higher, and I was at the point where, okay, this is the maximum that I wanted to pay. But then I thought to myself, you know, within an extra probably 500,000 may be the difference. So that is what I did. And I waited and waited to see if anybody would outbid me, because every time I bid, someone was outbidding me. And what is good is that when you're outbidded, you are informed immediately that you have been outbidded. So I found the platform to be very seamless and user friendly. And I put in my last bid, and I was just there waiting for the last 10 minutes of the auction to see if I'd be outbidded in the final stage. But lo and behold, the time elapsed, and then I just got an email saying, congratulations. So I was kind of surprised because sometimes I don't even know if I was mentally prepared, because I just assumed that I wouldn't be successful. So thereafter, when I came to the reality that I actually won the bid, I had to quickly go into action, because even though I would have given proof of deposit, the money was somewhere. So, you have to just get moving to try pull those funds to meet the required deadline. So Oliver called me and bad me up in the process about the timing, but I managed to get through and submitted what was required. And the process took a couple months, but and I was a bit fearful that I wouldn't get the person out of the property. But when everything came through and the person was paid, they gracefully left, which I appreciated. But as I said, I mean, the whole experience was good. Anytime I required any assistance, I would call and I would get it as required, and I'd get, advice as to how to go through the process. The one thing I will say that I probably didn't realize until the process ended was the thing called the reserve price. So when you're bidding, you'll probably see something saying reserve price not met. And I didn't really understand what that was at the time, but I know that when I was successful, it said the reserve price was met. So I would advise you all to find out what exactly that means, because my understanding is that it is a minimum price that they will take for the property. So that must be met for you to be successful. Oliver can correct me because he's the expert. But I had a good experience, no complaints. As I said, the platform was pretty user friendly, and what I appreciated is that I could see the other bidders bidding with me. So I got an opportunity to, okay, well, you bid X, I can bid Y. And it was very transparent. I could see how many bidders were in competition with me. And as such, I could properly strategize. So I have moved in my property. I got my property in about July last year. Did some renovations, moved in for September, and I can say I am very happy. It's not my first home, but the location is ideal for me. So I have no regrets. And I know if my property went on the open market, it would have been much more expensive. So overall, good experience, and I would encourage everyone to try to get into this auction. Thank you.
Thanks, mommy. Karine was, very, informative as well. As Karine said, I'm just going to do a quick synopsis because I realized that while I was speaking, the audio was choppy on YouTube. So just a quick synopsis. So the reserve price is set by the financial institution and it's never disclosed because the auction is intended to be a free and fair and objective process. But the starting price is a function of the reserve price, all right? Properties are sold as is, where is, and subjected to existing tenancies and condition and tenancies. So as is, where is, like any other auction. And remember, most importantly, and Mrs. Hall did well in, in explaining the mortgage process. You can use a mortgage to purchase at auction. In fact, most people do. Only thing you have to do, you have to be pre-approved before you get let into the auction, and you have to show that you have at least 10%. You have to do your due diligence. Due diligence meaning visit the area, look at the neighborhood, and get some ideas as to the values of similar properties in the area. Get yourself familiar with the auction process. And speak to your attorney, very much important. Mr. Woolcock is online here. This team's recording would be uploaded, so you'll get the comprehensive, let's say the comprehensive presentation that I did earlier on. So I'm just doing this synopsis just for the YouTube video, for YouTube viewers. However, the entire recording will be updated or uploaded to the YouTube by later today or tomorrow. Thanks again. I'm gonna hand over back to Raquel Nunes.
Hi guys, well, you heard from our three successful bidders. We have lots and lots of successful bidders, and we're very happy every time we have our auctions, as we know that we are the conduit for persons owning their home. We know a lot of persons say that they're not buying puss in a bag. However, we have people who can give them the right way to own. Give them the right testimonial so that they know that it can work. Some persons will not want to take part, but that's it. We have coming up on the 26th of March, 12 properties. I know you have visited our website, so you would have seen them, but let me remind you, we have 2 in St. Anne. We have the Camelot Village in Discovery Bay, and we have Miami Bay property. We have 2 in Caribbean Estate. 2. We have 2 in Greater Portmore, 1 in West Ascot and 1 in West Sabina. We also have 2 in Waterford. We have 2 in Portmore, Brayton, and Cedar Grove. That's a lot, because you know we not only auction houses, we auction lots as well. And we have 1 in New Harbour Village and 1 in Williamsfield Drapers, Portland. So you see, we have all over. So get on board. Remember to go online and register. You know the website already, www.crsja.com/auctions, and get ready. Okay, so we're going through the questions, some of the questions that we asked you to put in the chat. And the first one is, what is the attorney's fees? So we know that's for Ruel.
Yes, good evening again. I did touch on it earlier, and I had mentioned that it varies from attorney to attorney. It's really a market system that we're in now, but I can speak in for myself. It is typically about 1.5% to 2% plus GCT thereabout. Other attorneys may charge more, so bear that in mind.
When will we be notified to make a bid on a property after being registered? So you would go online on the date of the auction, in this case, the upcoming auction, March 26th. And this is after you have, of course, properly registered and uploaded the documents that are required. On the day of the auction, you would go online, log in, click on the property that you're bidding on, and you will see the bid here button. And you will just bid, and as the other successful bidders explained, you bid and you watch, and you will be notified that you are the highest bidder. And if somebody outbids you, then you'll be notified that you have been outbid, and then you go back and you click on the same button. I hope that answers that. How will you know if there are any restrictive covenants on a property that you are bidding for? Well,
again, you know, the attorney can advise you of that, but typically that whether or not there are any breaches of those covenants is within the purview of the surveyor who you're going to get to do your surveyor's report. Whether or not you're taking a mortgage or you're buying cash, it's always advisable to do a service report, so at least you know where you stand, where those covenants are concerned. Yes, so you can know this through your attorney, and you can know whether or not if there are any breaches through your surveyor.
This one is for Petal. Is the mortgage rate the same if you're a first-time homeowner or if it's your second mortgage? Ms. Hall, are you there?
Raquel, is there a question for me? Raquel?
Yes.
Is there a question for me?
The question was if the mortgage rates are the same for first-time. Is the mortgage rate the same for first-time homeowners as it is for persons who are buying for second purchase for investment?
Yes, at JN, it is the same interest rate. What differs is the financing. So if it is that you're buying a property that is for owner occupancy, you can get up to 100% financing, meaning we can lend you the entire amount. If it is that you want an investment property, we lend you up to 75% financing of the lower of the purchase price or value. So the interest rate is the same. What differs is the level of financing, either for owner occupancy or for investment property. All right.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Petal. Are there cases where the starting prices are greater than the property values? Oliver? And also, how will I know the market value of the property?
Thank you. So the starting prices are never greater than the market value. As I said, the starting price is a function of the reserve price. And so in terms of the market value, you can check the real estate websites. You can speak to an evaluator, and you also can talk to us. We can provide you with a comparative market analysis or just give you some guidance as to our knowledge of the market. Because we have sold so many properties at auction and on the open market, we are duly qualified to give you some advice on the values. So yes, so another person asks, when will I be notified to make a bid on a property after being registered? You will get an email reminding you of when the auction will start. However, we always send several emails leading up to the auction. So for example, the next auction is on the 26th. You may get one or two more emails, just prompting you, but you have to be diligent and remember yourself as well. So I guess that's it. The other questions we will definitely collate and answer them and email it out to the registered persons. So I believe it was a very informative session. Remember, the Teams recording would be uploaded because the first section of my presentation was a little bit choppy, but the Teams recording would be more, would be more clear, so you can digest it within your own time and convenience. So thanks again, ladies and gentlemen. I really appreciated you taking time out of your Sunday afternoon to take part in this meeting. And we look forward to you participating in the upcoming auctions so that you can build wealth for yourself and your families and future generations. Thank you very much.